So, September 1st, 1939, Great World War II kicks off. One of the bloodiest wars in human history that affected millions of people. And, well, I figured I'd take some time today to see who was the first person to be affected and who ended up being the last person affected by this Great War. And we're going to hop between two different theaters today. So we have to start off on the Eastern Front, and then we're going to hop to the Pacific, where the war ended over top of Japan. And I figured I'd like to bring some light onto who was the first and who was the last person to actually perish in this Great War. I know millions did, and it was quite catastrophic at the time, and still is today. But I wanted to take a look at who was first and who ended up being last, sadly. Now, the first person would be Franciszek Honiak. I probably butchered that because it's, Germany and Poland. Not very good at that. But he was a 43-year-old farmer and was considered a Polish sympathizer by Germany. And well, he did fight in World War I and was kind of sympathetic to the Polish and how Germany had started seeing them leading up to World War II. Now, he would actually ended up meeting his fate on August 31st, 1939. Well, you might look at me and say, well, that's not anywhere near September 1st when the war technically started and Germany invaded Poland. Well, no. But that's because Germany needed a reason for the invasion of Poland, and well, they tried to do this with a false flag operation in Gluwitz. The idea of this was to have some people that they didn't really care for in Germany. We're talking like communists and social democrats and Polish sympathizers like him. We were going to make them look like Polish soldiers. And we were going to have them take control of a radio tower in Germany to make it look like Poland was attacking Germany, giving Germany the right to invade Poland and take over. Now, did that really work? No, I'm pretty sure they would have just invaded anyways, but this was kind of to make it look justified, even though it still didn't. So I'm just going to call him Frank here for a sec, because it's hard to pronounce his name. Frank would end up being drugged and put inside of the radio tower, where they would then broadcast a Polish written message over Germany, basically kind of like a declaration of war by Poland with the way they made it sound, because they took the radio tower, fake battle. And that is where he would be gunned down, inside that radio tower. And many would consider him the first casualty of World War II, because just 24 hours later, Germany would be invading Poland. And, by the time October fell, Poland was gone. It was consumed by Germany. So who ended up being considered one of the last casualties of World War II? Well, that would be Anthony Michon. He was a ball turret gunner that would take operations flying over Japan over in the Pacific Theater. Now, he was a gunner and a photographer for a B-32 bomber crew. Now, even though the war was coming to a close in the final week with around August 15th and that week, the U.S. was still flying reconnaissance missions over Japan. He would end up meeting his fate on August 18th, 1945. Well, you might look at me and say, well, that's 3 days after the surrender of Japan. Yes, but the U.S. was still flying reconnaissance missions. We were taking photos of airfields and stuff because the U.S. was getting ready to land their own troops. We were going to start our occupation of Japan shortly after the ceasefire, because we're allies now, kind of. Forced allies, I should say, at least at the start of this. We're allies today. But they would be sent on a mission to take some photos off the east coast of Japan on the airfields to make sure that the planes were staying grounded and that the airfields were still in good shape. That way, when the U.S. came to land its own troops, we wouldn't have any issues with our own equipment. Well, there were a group of fighters who ignored the ceasefire and were very nationalistic towards Japan and did not see the surrender as being something that their emperor would do. And the name of these, I'm going to butcher it, just bear with me, were the Yokosuke Kokatai. It was a group of fighter pilots who ignored every order from the ceasefire and still would take their planes up into the air. Well, on that day, in August 18th, this bomber would meet those pilots and would be caught up in a quick fight that would lead to Anthony getting hit a couple of times in his ball turret and quietly bleeding out with his crew on their way back from the mission. And that would be considered one of the last casualties of World War II on August 18th. And like I said, there's a couple people considered the first. There's a couple people who were considered the last. I kind of just picked the two people that I would really consider first and last in this situation, because even though the war is coming to a ceasefire at a certain time frame, it doesn't always mean that the war is over for everybody. You know, news doesn't travel fast like it does today. You know, there are several conflicts in history where even though there's a ceasefire one day, there's still a battle raging the next. So, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe, and leave a comment, because I want to start doing a series on some war stories for heroes of World War II in the future, and this will kind of be the first one. Let me know who you want to see a video on. I'll dig in some research and we'll make a quick video on them going over their story. I'll see you all later.